I want to talk about Luigi Mangione and how he has kind of accidentally exposed the Democratic Party. Now, let's get the obvious out there. Yes, murder is bad. For all the people that want to hear that, yes, obviously, murder is bad. But let's talk about how Democrats have lost the media game for a wide variety of reasons. But the reason I want to focus on right now is because Democrats really don't fight for anything. Now, let me show you what I mean. On the left, I have Benny Johnson, who is, yes, he has taken money from Russia. But let's look at this point right here. He's making a statement. The Colorado Springs shooter identified as non-binary. The Denver shooter identified as trans. The Aberdeen shooter identified as trans. The Nashville shooter identified as trans. One thing is very clear: the modern trans movement is radicalizing activists into terrorists. Now, are these facts? No, of course not. The idea he is putting up here is that trans people are dangerous. They are shooters. They are terrorists. Could it be further from the case? Most shooters, mass shooters, school shooters, they are usually cis men, okay? That is the actual reality. But this is a notion that not just Benny Johnson has put forward. This is what the Republican movement has been about, demonizing trans people day in and day out, day in and day out. They do it nonstop. They fight religiously to demonize transgender people. Now, let's go ahead and go to something more recent. That was in 2023. Fast forward. Now, there's been another mass shooting, another school shooting that just happened. According to law enforcement on Monday, December 16th, a 15-year-old girl brought in a rifle and started shooting up people. A bunch of people died. It was horrific, of course. But look at what happens now. The account Libs of TikTok, operated by Shia Rashik, amplified these rumors to a 3.8 million follower account. Here he goes. Madison, Wisconsin police chief says he doesn't know if the shooter was transgender and then uses he, she, and they pronouns to describe the shooter. Very odd and bizarre. So the idea here is obvious. Once again, they want to put into the minds of people that the shooter is transgender because they want to demonize transgender people. It is what the Republican movement has been about for years now. And they do it religiously, nonstop. They are militant about it. And another thing they are militant about is the border in terms of mass deportations. They've been talking about it nonstop, demonizing immigrants nonstop. And this is what you get. You get a Donald Trump presidency. Here we go. This is what you get from Democrats. You get this vague notion of how they kind of implemented the Inflation Reduction Act, which does decrease prescription drugs. But some of that is due to happen in 2026. Now, watch what happens in the future. You're going to go, well, it's 2 years from now. But what will happen? I can almost guarantee you Donald Trump will take credit for it. And he will convince tons of people that it was actually him who did it. And Democrats won't fight hard enough to convince people that is actually their job in doing it. Not Republicans and not Donald Trump. And this is what Republicans do. They know how to play the game of politics. Republicans have awful policy that tends to hurt the average person, but they are very good at playing the game of politics. An example, when you think of Donald Trump, you think of mass deportation and you think of his tariffs. Now, his tariffs are horrific. Any economist worth anything will tell you that tariffs will actually hurt the average person by making prices go up. Mass deportations will also have a disaster effect on the American economy. But people voted for it because they understood the game. Democrats aren't alarmist enough. They don't do enough. And what Democrats need to do is attack Republicans viciously, militantly. When Donald Trump does a tax cut for the top 0.1%, talk about how people will suffer from that because everything is going to the top 0.1% and the bottom, the rest of us, the 99%, we're getting nothing. We're getting shafted. Talk about how Donald Trump literally doesn't have a healthcare plan. And if he gets the ACA, people will literally be on death panels because back in the day before the ACA, people would get rejected for pre-existing conditions, and then they would either have to go in massive amounts of debt, or they would just like slowly die because they don't get the coverage they need because they can't afford it, and they put it off, and then they die. That still happens, but it would happen a lot more if Donald Trump got the ACA. Democrats don't talk about it nowhere near as militantly as they need to. And also, Democrats should brag about their accomplishments. They don't do that. When Joe Biden is probably one of the most pro-union presidents we have had in my lifetime. I was born in the mid-90s. So Joe Biden, most union president we've had, most pro-union president. Does he talk about it? Do Democrats in large talk about it? No, they don't talk about it. They don't brag about it, which is why it is so easy for Republicans to pretend with their fake populist rhetoric that they care about the average person. When Donald Trump bragged to Elon Musk on a call how it was such a wonderful job that he defeated unions and gutted unions. It doesn't matter if you pass the SHIPS Act if nobody knows about it. You have to be militant about what you believe in. Right now, we are in a situation where people are mad at the CEO, not because, they're not bragging about how the CEO got shot because they just love the idea of CEOs getting shot. It is a symptom of people being mad at a system. And that system is how the healthcare system is run in the country. And instead of talking about it, being militant about, hey, this is our opportunity to talk about the public option. This is our opportunity to talk about universal health care. Democrats say nothing. They don't talk about it. They're very quiet about it. At most, you get a tweet about it, and that is it. There is no unification. There is no unified movement to push anything. They don't politicize it. They just quiet about it. And I don't get it. I actually don't understand how they are like this. It's insane to me. And it would be so easy to just get this ball on the road here. And it's not like you can't do it because Joe Biden hasn't even talked about it. And it's just a major hole in the way Democrats approach politics. So here is an article. Whatever happened to Biden's public option? This was made in 2024, April 26. KFF Health News. The president hasn't uttered the phrase public option since December 2020, according to FactBase, which tracks his public remarks. We can look at it here. This is the last time he talked about a public option, I believe. Yeah, so a speech on the economy and COVID-19. Talked about a public option, a public Medicare option. The last time he talked about it. And it's not like people aren't, people are primed for it. We go over here to a article by Gallup. 62% of U.S. adults, the highest percentage in more than a decade, say it's the federal government's responsibility to ensure all Americans have health care coverage. Now, okay, you look at that. Sounds good. 62%. Now we go over to America's preferred healthcare system. You have government run and you have system-based private insurance. So if we look at system-based private insurance, that number in 2020 was at 55%. That's what people preferred. Now you go to present day, it's at 49%. A little bit, tiny bit less than half of the country likes that system now. 46% of people prefer a government-ran system. Back in 2020, it was at 42%. So it's picking up steam. And imagine for a second we lived in a world where Democrats were militant about pushing a universal healthcare system or a public option. Imagine how that could impact the average person's decision-making and their mindset when approaching these topics. And I know that because that is what Republicans have done so well. Look at this right here. Trump and Harris supporters sharply divided on mass deportations, but even 27% of Harris supporters support a mass deportation of immigrants living in the country illegally. 88% of Trump supporters, and of all registered voters, 56% Over half of the country supports mass deportations of illegal immigrants, which would be a disaster for the country, for sure. But the reason why they believe it is the right thing to do, because Republicans are militant about it. They talk about it nonstop every single day. They have dominated the media ecosystem in a way that Democrats have not done. They are passionate about it every single day. They talk about it nonstop. Anytime something happens that they can point to as a reason to implement mass deportations, they do it in a way Democrats don't do it when they're pushing their own policies. Point blank, period. Democrats need to do a better job. And whenever you have an entire party that is boring, dull, and unaspiring, you can't expect people to show up to vote for you. And that is one of the reasons, a reason why the Democratic Party lost to Donald Trump, a person that literally admitted that they don't have plans for health care. They only have concepts of a plan.